looking good, Italian Joe.
I'm feeling good, Tommy boy. I want to tell you, I'm sorry about the game. I know that you're big Niners fan, growing up in the Bay Area, and you've had some good times, and unfortunately, Super Bowl Sunday was not one of those times. So, as a Panthers fan who has never won anything, welcome welcome to, hey, we lost the Super Bowl, and I'm sorry about that.
Hey, at the end of the day, I was with my family, my extended family. My folks were there. We were at a beloved friend's house with about 20 people, which we didn't think we would be at because of some tragedies in various lives. And it was awesome. Other than the ending, once the Niners did not score that final touchdown, I knew that we were not going to win the game because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And as much as it hurts me to say it, Kermit the Frog.
Patrick Mahomes.
Sorry, I always get their voices mixed up. He does what he does, and there's a reason he gets paid the big bucks. And it was impressive. So, not a sore loser. I'm also a Duke fan, so I'm used to saying things like this.
It does feel quite rehearsed, like you've said this before.
I tried. Look. At one point or another, we're all going to be on the losing end of something, and I try to remember that there's a little bit of grace involved with that. So. I try to give what I expect to receive one day, and that day happened to be this past Sunday. So, all good.
All good stuff.
How the heck are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. Had a great weekend. Had a good celebration earlier this week with my family. So it's been a good time.
Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I'm a man. I'm 41. I still. It's weird sometimes since I've been around F3 for about 11 or so years. It's kind of strange to be no longer the young guy in the group. Like when someone says to you, "Man, you're pretty fast for an old guy." Ooh, snap. Okay, cool. Got it. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. So thanks, young buck. 21 years old.
That AARP card is probably on its way to you now. I know. I remember starting F3 when I was 39 thinking, the world is my oyster. It's weird being the same age as old people.
But I'm not as old as I feel sometimes, and sometimes I feel better than that, I guess. Hey, what are we talking about today?
Well, ironically, with the Super Bowl just ending and there being this huge void in America's life, because what are we going to do until September? We're talking football. So you're welcome to our audience because we're going to fill a little bit of that void, at least for 1 week. And if you ever get lonely of football, you can go back and rewatch this episode. A really great message came through at a great time about a father-son football game that's happening in a region in F3 here in the States, and we wanted to share it, chop it up. Ideally, again, with the theme of this whole show is that we're giving away great ideas that we want other regions to pick up and run with, much like a football. And so we're going to take the idea of an idea, turn it into that football, and allow the guys to run with it. So we've got on a couple of different guys that are gonna introduce each other, I think. But let's do this in good old fashioned Brady Bunch style. I'm gonna call who's on my list and the way I see him. Heidi, you brought the idea, I believe, to the table. So why don't you start first? Tell us your name, Arama, and how you got your handle of Heidi.
Yeah. So Eric Cobb, 49, Heidi. I was EH'd by Tool Time.
That's right.
Yeah, I was EH'd by Tool Time out of Franklin, Tennessee, and Namarama. They decided they already had a Wilson, they already had an Al Borland, so I got stuck with Heidi.
I love being in regions that are like just steeped in the '90s culture. It really takes me back.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, Heidi, thanks for coming on the show. What prompted you from the jump to even bring this to our attention?
One of the things about the Father and Son Bowl is that it's this huge event, and the mission of it just aligns so well with F3. I'm looking at the website now, and the mission of the Father and Son Bowl is to champion fatherhood and encourage men to be the loving and strong leaders that they're created to be. And Darren is the founder of the Father Son Bowl. He's a good friend of mine. We meet up, have lunch regularly, and he mentioned that they had lost a sponsor and really needed help, really needed volunteers. And that's when I said, well, you know what? We can provide manpower. So we just started working and planning it from there.
So
Yeah, if F3
Darren,
has
this
one
was
thing, it's manpower and spades, right?
we've and guys who are willing to step into the void and fill that void. So Darren, it was kind of your idea, but same question. I understand you've got a nickname as well. You're one of the F3 guys. So same question, name Rama, and how'd you get your name? And then we'll ask a little bit more about the Father Son Bowl.
All right. Well, this is gonna be painful because of how you guys introduced the show. Because my F3 name is Wide Right.
Oh no, tell me
I am a
what.
longtime Buffalo Bills fan. So
Woo!
I know.
Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. Bills.
Stop, please, please. Don't remind
Yikes.
me. I'm trying to put in
Shots
the past.
Oh, it's good.
So, yeah, my name is Derek Clark, and I'm in Spring Hill, Tennessee, which is not too far from Franklin, where we host the event and everything. But yeah, so it's wide right. So there's a lot of bad memories, and so I was rooting hard, man. I'm with you, Tommy boy. I was rooting hard for the Niners. Our whole family was going Brock Purdy all the way. We were really looking
Yeah.
for Mr. Irrelevant to take over Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
I know. It hurts, but there's always next year, right? At the end of the day, it was just fun to be in the big game, and that's a bunch of BS coming out of my mouth right now. But wanted that W. Hey, so tell us this, Wide Right. When did the seed get planted, and what took over your heart to run with it?
Well, it started, really started probably way long ago, like when I was a kid. I grew up, long story short, I grew up in a small town, and I'm 54. So, been,
Respect.
so 80s, 90s, I'm an 80s guy. So that's kind of my high school era. So I grew up in a time when, in a small town when divorce wasn't a thing. And in our town, my parents were one of the first our families was one of the first families in the town to kind of go through divorce. And so, long story short, went through a lot of difficult things, and dealt with a lot of issues with my dad, and his struggles with alcoholism. And so I went through my young life kind of just running wild, and just, doing a lot of things that led to some bad choices and circumstances. And then eventually got to a point where, when I was older, got into my late 20s, that when I got married and we had our first child, and then becoming a father, really changed things for me. And that was really the point also when I came to faith in Christ, that, I realized, so much about like fatherhood and my Heavenly Father's love for me, and all these things that started unfolding, and just God started showing me so many different things. And then it was when I fast forward to my oldest son's 6th birthday party. I had this idea of getting the dads, so all the boys, it was like Lord of the Flies when we had all the boys come over for a birthday party at that age, where it's mayhem. And so I'm like, it was such a great time, at that age. And so I'm like how cool would it be to have like the dads come over and we play a football game. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
named it the Father and Son Bowl. It was just like 15 guys. We even had one of our friends come out and be a ref, a quasi ref, and just to make it kind of feel like a game and a bowl and all that kind of stuff. And so we had a great time, and it was just like I said, 15 people kind of in the backyard, and family style kind of thing. And then it was really at that point that I just felt like, God was leading us to take this to the community level. And so my wife and I, we prayed, and we just kind of had, I'll never forget the prayer. I just kind of like had my hands like wide open, and I was like, Lord, just, if this is your idea, just take it and go with it. And then we're going to follow as much as we can. And so, that was the first year we had it at the community level. We had about 150 players, and my wife and I, we aren't event organizers or anything like that. We had no clue what we were doing. I mean, we're like running porta potties. How do we run a porta potty? Or all this kind of stuff. All these things we had to kind of figure out as we go. And again, by God's grace, every year we grew. And to the point to where we got to the point where we sold out. We didn't have the capacity of the number of fields, daylight. We even actually brought in at one point we brought in light towers to have like one more round of games so that we could try to get more people in. But we grew to that point where we couldn't, we were maxed out, and it just, would sell out every year. And so it's a journey of faith, and just great time, just trying to bring men together, and to, like Heidi said, just to champion fatherhood, and encourage men to be the loving and strong leaders that they're created to be. So that's kind of like a really 30,000 foot view of like where it started and how it kind of where it is today. And it's also kind of evolved. Well, my wife had this thing. I got to give her all the credit because she had this idea 8 years ago to start another event called MVP Sunday. And so it was upon our 10th anniversary that we started this. And the idea behind MVP Sunday was that, hey, again, we're trying to encourage fatherhood, and we also, by kind of on a byproduct of this, encouraging men to be the loving and strong leaders. We also tried to support organizations who are working on the front lines to work with kids like fatherless boys and young men in need, and this just that are there from the fallout of fatherlessness. Did I say that right? It's like always with some fatherlessness. But and so we're like, how can we help these organizations? So we try to raise money to support them, but then also like highlight these organizations that are, again, on the front lines doing the hard work. And so let's bring them out and do what we do on Saturday, but do it on Sunday, but make it a special day for them where we feed them. It's all for free. Feed them and just play the games and have a great time, do the rally and all the stuff that we do. And so that's taken off, and that's actually become like really our favorite day because it's really special. And so that is again a great day. And then last year we brought in again my wife's idea. She brought in the idea of like, why don't we include boys with special needs, because we had some friends and families and that we knew, and this one of these things that kind of was brought to us that we kind of like, okay, we feel like God is leading in this direction. And so that was awesome. And so just there's so many things I could say about all of that. I could go into detail with so many things, but but that has become like a really special day, and we're super excited about that. So that's kind of like the snapshot and the bigger picture of what we do and why we do it.
Awesome. So you started 18 years ago with 150 or so guys. Well, first started in backyard, 15 or so dads and sons.
Mm-hmm.
Then your first official event, 150 guys. How many guys were there this past weekend for your annual Father-Son Bowl?
We had about 850.
Holy, Tommy boy, that's
Lord.
a little bit bigger than the Sandlot, football games we used to play in our backyards with our neighbors. A little bit larger.
That's like second only to the Super Bowl attendance, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, it was crazy because actually a few years ago, I mean, we like prior to COVID, like the year prior to COVID, we had over 1,000.
Wow. Outstanding.
And so when COVID hit, we still did it. We trudged through, and we did it the year that with the first year of the lockdown and all that kind of stuff. We went ahead and did it. And we had a great turnout because it was actually one of those. It was one of our really special years because I think that was that year that after that all happened and it all kind of got going, people realized and valued things like this where they could get together and spend quality time with family, and especially our boys and our young men that are out there. It's a special environment anyway because it's all men, right? And but then this was like a lot of people's hearts really started turning to the things that were important, and it was a really great time. But yeah, but then we kind of scaled down a little bit after that, and we kind of refined some stuff because for us it's really, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I know this was counterintuitive to say like, hey, let's go smaller, but for us it's always about quality over quantity. And so we figured out some ways to do some things to like make it better. And again, that's what we're trying to do, is just create the best event we could do. So, but we might be scaling back up again. It's like, but this is like, Heidi would know this, very well. That we are a mom and pop organization. We've grown to as big as we are, but it's like we're still a mom and pop organization. We're relying on people like Heidi to help us out, that put in all the sacrifice, time to help us with, he does database stuff, and then other people that line fields. I mean, it's huge. It's grown into this huge community event, and it takes the community. Like F3 is like coming in and helping us with what we call field generals. And so and that's a whole conversation there, which I love. I mean, the fit of F3 into our field general positions is just an incredible thing, and I'm so excited about that. But and that actually began at our previous event when that idea kind of got planted. And so it's a community effort for sure.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think as folks learn more and more about F3, it's almost impossible to transfer into their brain unless they first post and show up, right? That a guy first shows up and understands what it is about F3 that just makes a difference and awakens guys to their full potential. And you're doing it on a community level through a backyard football game, and I'm using air quotes for our podcast listeners. And what you just said really resonated with me, because I think of when I first realized what it means to be a leader. It's not on your business card as much as it's on your heart to move a group of people to a position of advantage and do it in such a way that everyone's enthusiastic about getting there and appreciates the journey. You know, you got a guy who maybe sits behind a computer all day at his job, and it might be grueling, but then you give him the opportunity to do it in a service mentality. To run your website for registration, to look at who's showing up, to look at what the needs are based on the data. You know, hey, day of, we're going to need blank, blank, and blank because we have 800 people showing up, and half of them are kids, and the other half are families, moms and dads. Like that just lights a guy up. And all we're looking for is that opportunity to be of service, whether we realize it on the front end or not. It somewhere shows up inevitably in their heart, like, oh man, I can take my talents and apply them to something beyond myself, and then all of a sudden, it's like life just makes sense. And I really appreciate the fact that it came to you through the idea and iteration of a backyard football game. I mean, you just rattled off your field generals, for example. Just watching your face as you described it made the whole difference, right? You're beaming. You're talking about this natural fit that we didn't see until we applied it to this opportunity. Heidi, talk to me a little bit about what it means to be able to plug the guys of the Franklin region into this thing happening in Spring Hill.
Yeah, so this when Darren first approached me about it and we started talking about it, I wanted to really give it as an opportunity to bring a lot of the regions together. So if you look at the Middle Tennessee area in general in F3, if you start at Nashville and you start coming down the map, there are a dozen F3 regions, a dozen Nantans, within, a 30 or 45 minute drive of this event. Some of them are just a 15-minute drive away. So putting that out to all of these regions, it wound up almost being like a convergence where, you just sign up for a shift and there are guys from F3 Spring Hill, F3 Franklin, F3 Brentwood, F3 Muletown down in Columbia, all working together at the same shift. Most of them never even met each other before. So it was just it was a great time to bring the second F into this first F event that we're doing community service for. So it was just an all around fantastic fit. And talking about all the different regions, in true F3 fashion, I kind of initiated a contest. I knew I was going to be there all day, so I said, out of all of the F3 volunteers, whoever has the most shirts present is going to get a shout out on the podcast. Whichever region has the most volunteers there with their shirts gets the shout out. And that was F3 Spring Hill with 11 guys.
Nice.
So
Nicely done, Spring Hill. Bringing the heat.
We'll
We've talked to some of those guys.
Post-production.
Yeah, I know, right? That's fantastic. Hey, Heidi, when you say volunteer, what did you guys do? Obviously, you're a walking billboard for F3 Nation with the logo on the chest, but what did you guys kind of do? What was your volunteer activity that you performed at that Father-Son Bowl?
So we were the field generals that Darren was talking about. In every game, every field, we had 9 fields playing simultaneously. Games throughout the day. So every field had a field general that was working in conjunction with the refs. The YMCA provided actual refs for the games. And the field general, just one of the big things is to make sure everybody has fun, make sure everybody's following the rules. It's one thing if you got a game of 7-year-olds running around. It's a different thing if you've got 17-year-olds from 2 rival high schools. There may be some stiff arms and it may be a little competitive. So just kind of watching that stuff, helping out the refs. I saw field generals out there that were helping the refs keep score. They were a backup scorekeeper with their phone. It was raining and muddy and just a colossal mess. So the field generals were out there. Every one of them would have a towel and a spare ball and dry off the ball and hand it off after every play. Dry it off and hand it off. Just being a support crew, really. Right there on the sides, helping out the refs. And just one of the cool things that we do at the Father and Son Bowl is the little man play. And I want to let Wide Right talk about this because it's just such a fun thing.
Yeah, So we learned a while ago when we first started. Again, we learn so much as you go along, but we'd have these again family style games where you've got a family. You could have literally one family where you have a 17-year-old and you have a 5-year-old. And so but we want we want the family to play together. They don't split up. Okay, Dad, you got to go play with this in this game with this your older son, and now we want to keep everybody together, unified. So that here's a family that has this range of kids. But what we'd see is, hey, these little guys aren't. They're as soon as they get the ball, they're pulling their flag right before they can get across the line of scrimmage, and so we're like, wait, that's not cool. And so we have a rule. It's called the little guy rule, where if there's a 5 or 6-year-old in the game, and if you want to use it, this is kind of like the secret weapon. A lot of guys have figured out to be the secret weapon for scoring. Where if you call the little guy play, that means only another little guy, so a 5 or 6-year-old on the other team, can pull his flag. So it almost becomes like a one-on-one kind of a thing. So and this is great because what happens is when guys get the spirit behind this play, you'll see like teenagers and dads chasing this little kid, this 5 or 6-year-old down the field, like diving and missing his flag, like, and making it like this epic run. And the kids love it. They just eat it up. But then, it's like, of course, guys figured out like, okay, wait, we'll save the little guy play for the last play or something.
When we need it the most, we're
Exactly.
gonna pull the trump card and toss him in there.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
So it makes it a lot of fun. So that's what that is.
So, question: let's say there's a young man from a home that doesn't have a father in the household and would really like to play the game. Is there anything in the Father Son Bowl where you get to join another team regardless if you've got an older brother or if you've got a dad who can join it? Maybe he's working, maybe he's not in the picture, but can this young man still play the game or play in one of the games?
Absolutely, man. It almost makes me want to cry thinking about it because we're fresh off the event, and I heard so many stories. God blessed us with a lot of encouragement in this last event. We've heard these stories before, but it's like to hear men come up to us and say, this one guy, Matt Reed, he comes up and he's like, Darren, it's like, we love this event. Every year I'm trying to find somebody new to invite to this event, but also he's a coach, like he does football coaching locally. And he's like, I'm always looking for somebody who I can bring along. There's another guy, Josh Poteet, who every year, he told my wife this year that every year he brings one guy who doesn't have a dad. And he's he coaches like 4 flag football teams, but he's always bringing somebody new, but they're also looking for some young man who doesn't have a dad, and he brings it along. And I saw the pictures that he sent me, and it's like, it was the before and the after pictures, like before, like they went out and played, then the after pictures where they're covered in mud, but just to see the faces of these kids. And but specifically this one young man that Josh brought is like just the joy in his face, and that's one of the things that I love. And again, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. That's what I just, again, we just stepped out very simply and tried to follow what we felt God was leading us to do, and to see how things have changed and over the years, where men have gotten the spirit of this event. Because this is not just about biological fathers and sons, like this is exclusive for that. Because the fact is, we know that there's a lot of broken families out there, and there's a lot of kids who don't have dads present. And so to hear these stories, and there's so many more men that do that, where they look and they know young men, maybe their friends, their son's friend, they'll bring these guys along. And there's even times when like single moms will sign up, and we have men that will play with these kids. And so it's grown beyond just what it may appear to be this father and son thing, to how do we impact the fatherless? How can we? And that's so that happens on during the Father and Son Bowl, but it happens specifically where, and this is what I love. I mean, there's guys, Heidi, you would know Steve's name and F3 Franklin, but he comes out on. There's a bunch of F3 guys that come out on MVP Sunday that plays with these kids from these organizations that don't have dads. And so how I saw it, and that's actually how this started. Like this idea is like when I saw Steve and a couple other guys from F3 and I'm like, Steve's always out here on MVP Sunday. It's like, and then it just like dawned on me. It's like F3 would be a great connection because some of these guys get this. And so to see these guys, like you said earlier, Italian Job, like how to step in that gap. How do we step into that gap? But that's a big part of also what we encourage men to do beyond this event and these days. It's like, how do you go out and not only be the leader that you're called to be in your own family, but how can you make an impact in the lives of those around? Because if man, you don't have to look very far to see, single mom homes or broken families or whatever, lots of different difficult situations that are the fallout of fatherlessness. But man, if you put a little effort into it, but now we see, like, after all these years, there's this one family that brings this one boy out every year, and they've been playing. He's been playing for at least 8 years, I think, with this dad and his son. That this young man doesn't have a dad, but he's been out there every year for 8 years playing, and it's just like, it's beautiful to see. I mean, it's powerful. It's powerful, the effect that a man can have on a young man's life, just even putting a little bit of time and attention into their lives.
Yeah, you're talking about, like, that's unlocking core memories for that young man, right? Or young kid who's growing into a young man and now has a positive influence in his life. It's a lot like the blade and the whetstone relationship in F3, right? That horizontal relation, or the vertical relationship between two folks, and one's got something to pass on, and then lo and behold, everybody benefits, right? I think that's an amazing opportunity. And again, it just blows my mind that all the things that we love about sport, right, are coming true in this father-son game that's been around for years. And who knew, right? Until the Sky Cube pointed out and said, "Hey, y'all, watch this," right? We just get out of the way at that point and run with it. Let's do this from each of you, and we'll start with you, Wide Right. One thing, as guys are hearing this and getting motivated to start something similar in their region, give me one thing you wish you had known going into it. And then Heidi, kind of the same question. One thing any F3 region who is on fire for this right now that they should know that would help accelerate their growth. So, Wide Right, you first, man.
Yeah, can you state that question again?
Yeah, just one thing you wish you had known 15 years ago when you're pulling the trigger on this thing that would help guys clear. Think about it. You're going to clear a roadblock for a guy who's going to start this in his region.
Oh man, don't be afraid of what you don't know. Step out in faith. Like I said earlier, it's a huge. We didn't know what we were doing, but I clearly felt the call by God to do this and to follow His lead. And I, my wife, and to be honest, my wife wasn't on board at first. She was like, "This is what, we don't know this, we don't know that," but I knew without a doubt in my mind that this is what we were supposed to do. And so we just had, like I said, we had to figure out stuff as we went along. But I think, and again, this is where the faith comes in. The faith is a huge part of this for us, as far as just why we do it, and then how we even encourage men. But stepping out in faith is never a clear, like, you always have it all, everything marked out and you clearly know everything. It's faith. Like, that's why they call it faith. And so, you learn as you go, and you'll be provided. And that's the thing that we're amazed by, is that, for me, it's like, when you're following God, He'll provide what you need if you're following His will. And so we've seen amazing things happen, like sponsors just come out of the blue, people who, like, become these major advocates that spread the word. And I still can't even believe it's like we run radio ads on 7 of the biggest radio stations in Nashville. And that was a gift from somebody a long time ago, but it's continued on for all these years. And it's like, again, I'm just like, there's so many things that will kind of fall into place, again, when you're obedient and follow the will of God. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to glorify Him. Jesus, He's my Lord and Savior, and I want to do everything I can to point people to Him, because, again, He's the ultimate Father. And I got to pause and just really, make sure it's clear, man. There's no way we can take credit for a lot of the stuff we do. We work hard for what we do and to try to make this happen. But man, it is the power of God that moves hearts, that moves the hearts of men to be involved with this, to change, for real transformation. And it's like the work that He does in the hearts of men and children. And it's interesting, because the heart of this is, it goes back into the book of Malachi, the last verses literally of the Old Testament, where, God says He will restore the hearts of the fathers to their children, and their hearts of the children to the fathers, so that I will not smite the land with a curse. And it's like that's critical. That the original Hebrew words are father, that's masculine, that's men. And when we do that, when we turn our hearts to our children, and the children's hearts, there's a powerful thing that happens, and that's what we see happen on the game day. There's a powerful connection, and a lot of the kids don't understand it, and I think that's why that's why we're successful, is because we're following what God has shown us in his word, and encouraging people to follow it and to see it. And because when you do that, there's things that can be done beyond your capacity, and that's all we've seen. And so, that's, again, if I would have known back, you said, like 18 years ago, like what I would have done, I don't know what I would have done differently. I think there's a lot of things that we made mistakes with, and learned some things the hard way. But I think the key thing is, what, if you feel led to do this, then do it, and just, do it to honor God and in faith, and you would be amazed at what you'll be blessed to experience, see, hear, to be a part of God's work. It's bigger and better than you could ever imagine.
I'm reminded as you talk about the Martin Luther King quote about you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And that's literally what you guys did, and just the next step and the next step and the next step, right? The first step is always one. You don't have to figure out step 12 until you get to step 11 at least. And then, because it could change, right? If you're trying to see the end zone all the way, odds are you're gonna miss that handoff that was right next to you. Heidi, I know that that's a tough act to follow, but anything that you would add on to the men of F3 that are looking to tie their rope to a friggin' F150, F350 for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking off what Right said a minute ago, was that this whole thing is run by volunteers. It's run by men and people, organizations, groups stepping up to help put it on. And I would say for F3, don't be afraid to step up and get involved in something like this. And a lot of guys hear, oh well, father son bowl, I don't have, I'm a dad of daughters, or that doesn't apply to me, or I'm not in that. But I will tell you this: I noticed during the event, two guys in particularly. One of them, his kids are much younger, too young to be playing in an event like this, and he is on the sideline. One of the F3 guys, as a field general, he is on the sideline just cheering like his son is out there playing, cheering these kids on. And I saw another F3 guy that was a general that, all he has is girls, doesn't have any boys. So he's never come out, never seen, never experienced this. And he's out there like a coach, right? He's got his clipboard and he's with the refs and they're just working together, and it was awesome to see, that level of engagement and excitement for guys that would otherwise have not come out if, they had not been asked to step up and volunteer and do it. And it's a great time, and it's only going to grow for us as F3. Every year, there's going to be more and more guys wanting to come back and do it again and volunteer again and step up and help out.
And one thing I'd add to like what Heidi's saying is, guys who have just daughters, this is, again, there's so many things that we could talk about as far as like how this is bigger than just like, hey, a football game and, maybe fatherhood in the father-son sense. It's like, this is all about, and this is one of the challenges and encouragements I gave to the guys this year was like, this is about us unifying as men. And this is where it's like, this is not political, what I'm going to say, but there are storms that are raging against masculinity, families, and our children. And if men don't step up and stand tall, and get on the right side of these things, then our communities, our families, our communities, and our nation won't stand. And so it's a matter, again, and it comes back to, and this is for me, this is the heart of it. Jesus said this. He said, anyone who isn't with me opposes me, and anyone who isn't working with me is actually working against me. That's why I love football, because there's two teams in all this, and there's a storm raging that's trying to take down what's intended for good by God in our lives. And the storms are raging and they're increasing and they're intensifying. And it's like, and if men don't get in the game, get off the sidelines and into the game, whether you have, sons or daughters, it doesn't matter, your wife, we have to step up and start standing strong and standing on the rock, which is Christ, and not the sand, the things of this world that will be washed away in these storms. When we do that, unify, and again, coming together, and that's what we see, like with F3, like Heidi just explained, there's men who coming out, and there's one guy from one of the Spring Hill guys that came out, and he asked me, like, he said, can I bring my daughter with me? I'm like, of course, she could be there with you and help you and all that, of course. And so, but I don't think, it's powerful what happens when men unify and stand together for the right reasons. And so that's a big part of what we're trying to encourage men to do.
So, Tommy boy, I think we should probably land the plane since we're running up on against time. I would say this: if there's a region out there, or guys who are not even part of F3, and they say, "I want to do something like this in my community, in my neighborhood," what website, Darren, should we send the guys to kind of get some information about the Father Son Bowl? Where can we send them to get some insight into what it takes to build one of these things? Where's the best place to send these guys who are asking that question?
Yeah, the best place would be go to our website, fathersonbowl.com. And on there, you obviously, like you did, you kind of go on there and kind of get a glimpse, just read the information, get a glimpse of like what it is, what we do and how we do it. I mean, not all the hows are in there, but what it is. But my contact information is on the About Us page. And so, or Contact Us page, I guess. And so you could, reach out to me, and, I could definitely, connect with anybody who wants some more information for sure. But yeah, like you said, we've learned a lot of lessons throughout all these years. And so there's a lot of knowledge to share. So, but like you said, that's that one step at a time.
Fellas, I can't thank you enough. This has been a great way. I mean, here we are recording this conversation on a Tuesday. And so 2 days into a fresh week, this is a great way to kick it off. I'm a firm believer that at the end of any given day, people just want to know that they were seen and heard and valued. And it just so happens you guys cracked that code with a little bit of a football game, right? And here we are talking 800, 1,000 people coming together just to create these memories that people know that they belong to. There's an infinite amount of ways to make people feel that they were seen, heard, and valued. And I love that you guys went out on a limb initially, and it's turned into this awesome thing that brings people together in just one community. But here we are talking about, now that F3 is involved, 9 regions, right, from across the Tennessee area. It just doesn't get any better than that. We overthink things, or we come up with a great idea and we charge people a premium to reach that ring when that's just not necessary. We're talking about a F3, a free men's organization that comes together around a 45-minute boot camp and unlocks so many men to reach their full potential. So again, T-claps to you guys for taking the time out to have the conversation with us, and also just giving it away. I mean, this is free advice. This is free ideas. We're not asking for subscriptions here. It's just a matter of showing up and being present and pouring into somebody's life, or pouring into a purpose that's beyond ourselves. That's where you find the value in the life that we live on this planet, right? Until we transcend into whatever it is we believe we become next. But listen, for everybody out there, you've got information. I'm going to put the website in the show notes. The contact info is on the website. You can reach out to Wide Right. You can reach out to Darren. For those non-F3ers out there, we have normal names too. But in the meantime, we'll see you next week. Gentlemen, love you guys for coming on, sharing your heart. Can't thank you enough. Everybody else, be good, or be good at it.
Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.